Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache from NacheSnow.com. Welcome. Today I have on Tara Andrus, and I'm really excited to share her story and work with you. But can we just take a moment? Episode 99. We're about to tip over to 100 next week. What? I mean, it's crazy. I've had a few solo episodes, but I think I've interviewed at least 90 women in the last 2 years. That's insane. But the show notes for this page is NacheSnow.com/99. So go over there to find any links or suggestions that she may have mentioned in this episode. And of course, you can do that for any of the episodes. Just do the slash and the episode number right at the end of NacheSnow.com, and it's right there for you. And then just a couple of housekeeping things. If you love the podcast and you want to support the podcast, head on over to NacheSnow.com/merch, MERCH, NacheSnow.com/merch. Or if you're just on NacheSnow.com already, just hit the shop link and it'll take you to my new t-shirt. I posted it on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for all the love. I had you guys vote on it too. So I got some high votes. So that's why I put it in production. But I really love how it turned out. It's a t-shirt, if you haven't seen it, that says, "Love, child of creativity and productivity." I don't know where I heard that saying from, but every time I hear something I like, I put it in my notes app. So I have like probably over 100 different sayings and quotes that inspire me that I just keep there. And so when I look for ideas like t-shirt ideas or ideas of something to letter in my bullet journal, I usually go there. And that one just spoke to me. There's some other quotes also that I'm going to put on a t-shirt, but that one I was like, wow, like that is me. Like I love productivity, giving productivity tips. I love my bullet journal and planners and all the things. But then I love to be creative. I'm always taking a workshop and learning jewelry and sewing and now mosaic tiles and, punch needle and all the things. And I love to marry them together. I love to do things that are creative and then also produce and make things happen. And so I am literally like the love child of creativity and productivity, which might mean different things for different folks, but that's okay. But anywho, if that saying inspires you too, head on over and check out the t-shirt that I have for sale. And again, that is NacheSnow.com/merch. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you buy one, please take a picture so I can share it. All right. And you'll also see another t-shirt over there that says, "Ask me what I do." And so introverts don't cringe, but I came up with that because of this podcast. The number one thing that I feel like entrepreneurs struggle with is putting themselves out there, marketing. So I decided to create a t-shirt that says, "Ask me what I do." So when you're out in public, the bold people who are bold will say, "Well, what do you do?" So it becomes a conversation starter at happy hours, or if you're at the coffee shop or at a museum or whatever. And I could be like, "Oh, well, actually, I have a podcast, Studio 78. You should check it out." You don't even have to say too much, right? Like I run a skincare line. Well, actually, I'm a painter and I paint clouds. But it's like an easy way for you to put yourself out there without like wearing a billboard around your neck. So it just says, "Ask me what I do." And it's kind of like on the right side, like where a pocket would be. So check that one out too. You might also want to pick that one up. Okay, so back to our guest today, Tara. I saw her work and I'm like, I love it. She paints clouds with metal leaf and they are just gorgeous. And that is all she does is she paints these beautiful skies and they're like metallic. And I can tell, I haven't seen them in person, but I know they're probably even more beautiful in person. And I always tell people the things that make me happy are like, bubbles, fireworks, and anything sparkly. So I just can imagine having this gorgeous cloud painting on the wall, and when you look at it in different directions, that metallic reflection with when the sun hits it is probably absolutely gorgeous. But I saw her work and I had to have her on, and it was interesting. I saw that she had posted too, it was a couple of months ago, that she was about to have a baby. So I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get her on. But actually I was able to talk to her 2 months after she had her third child, which was great because she also talks a little bit about balancing having 3 kids and also making time to paint. So I thought that was really perfect because I know a lot of times I get questions from moms who want to do their passion and they're just not sure how best to fit it in. So I, thank her for fitting me in and also providing some tips to those of you out here who are looking for that. Okay, well, I will be quiet now and let's get into this episode. Hello, welcome to the podcast, Tara.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be doing this with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to share your work and your story with everyone. But before we get into how you started painting clouds and skies, tell the listeners just a little bit about you and your background. How did you get there?
I grew up in Kansas City, which is in Missouri. Everyone who doesn't know Kansas City thinks it's in Kansas, but it's not. Part is, but the real Kansas City is in Missouri. Anyway, I grew up there and went to school. I went to the University of Kansas there, but I grew up going to the art museum in Kansas City with my mom on a weekly basis almost. She would take me, she called it Tara Tuesdays. Which was so fun. And I kind of am my son, my 4-year-old, is at the age where I was doing this. And I'm astounded that she ever got it together and found the time to be going even. Because I keep thinking he's going to be in kindergarten next year. How did she possibly do this? But anyway, we went every Tuesday, or at least in my mind, it was every Tuesday, to the museum, and we would wander and look at art, and I would take art classes there and just kind of explore. And it was so fun. And it made me really feel ownership of the museum and of the pieces. I felt so connected to the work from a really early age, which I think had, a massive impact on why I became an artist. But so anyway, then, in high school and grade school, I never really thought of myself as an artist. I loved art, but I didn't think of myself as a maker. And then in college, I went initially for industrial design and really loved industrial design, but kind of just didn't see myself working in an agency. And I still think it's such a cool job, but just not for me. So I called my parents and said, I'm really thinking of switching to painting, and thought that they were going to lose their minds because such a difference in potential salary. But they were really supportive. So I ended up going for art history and painting. Really, I think painting because I took a drawing class, an intro drawing class, and I thought I was not great, but I had this one professor who was so great, and she was really encouraging me to kind of stay on that path and keep trying to explore it. She was just phenomenal. So she kind of set me on that track, and I had no idea what I was doing for the longest time. But anyway, that's kind of what got me painting. It's always a windy route, I think, to what you do.
Well, I think one thing that is amazing, because I feel like anybody who has either background in design or traditional art, it's always hard sometimes getting your parents to understand no, people actually get paid and can make a living from this.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really great that your parents were okay, no, this is something that you want to do. We support you. Because I feel like a lot of creatives get hit with, I'm not sure, there might not be any future in the arts.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I think part of why my mom was supportive is because she is a creative and really wanted to be on that track, and her parents were not supportive. So she ended up she majored in journalism because she thought in her mind that was kind of the closest to art she could get without it offending them. Not offending, but, seeming like too far off the beaten path for them. So I think, she was so great and just embracing it and knowing that was the right thing. But even from when I was a kid, I mean, the fact that she took me to the museum is so amazing to me, that she kind of saw in each of us a different thing we were into and helped us hone that. I hope I'm doing with my own kids, but it's, it's so hard to know. You don't know until they're grown how
right, because you pick up on little stuff, but you don't know if that's the thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like my 4-year-old's so into trains, and I'm like, should I be do I go for trains? I think all little boys are into trains for a period of time, right?
Right. And so after school, so you decide to get your degree in, art history and painting. So after you graduated, where did you work? Were you able to get a job, in painting or, at a museum? What was next for you?
So after college, I felt so burned out, honestly, on painting. I mean, I loved it, but I just kind of couldn't do it anymore for a while. And I think because I loved museums so much, I always felt like, I wanted a career in museums if I could. So I ended up moving out here to DC. I was dating my now husband long distance, and he was starting law school in DC. And I thought DC has a million museums. So if I can't get a job in a museum in DC, then I couldn't be working in a museum. So
right. It's like, because we have a ridiculous amount of museums here, which is amazing, but it's a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
It is such a gift to us. But so I came out here and, hung out for a long time looking and trying to find something. It was 2008. So it was like right as the recession hit. So not a great time to be looking to work in a nonprofit. But I ended up getting an internship at the Smithsonian Traveling Exhibition Service and at another Smithsonian unit. I don't even know what the other word would be, like another office, I guess. And that one was I worked at this part called the Art Collectors Program. So I had these 2 internships at the Smithsonian, and the Traveling Exhibition Service became a job for a while after I interned. And it was a really great experience. I worked on a program called Museum on Main Street, and it was humanities. So it wasn't art-based, but they sent exhibits to rural communities across the country with the kind of idea is that the Smithsonian is America's museum. It's 70% taxpayer funded. So it really should be serving everyone. So Museum on Main Street was really the only outreach to rural communities from the Smithsonian. And it was really just a phenomenal thing to be doing straight out of college, because I got to go meet all of these people across the country and be a part of a really fun program. So anyway, I did that. And then at that same time, I decided that I really wanted to pursue a career in museums. So I got my master's at Bank Street up in New York, and the master's was in museum education. It's this really great program called a master's. What is it? A master's of education, and the program is called Leadership in Museum Ed. So it's for people who are working in museums currently. So you go up one weekend a month, and they do a year of just administrative stuff, like everything from grant writing to, it's everything.
Wow. And who would have thought that, and that's like
crazy. Like these programs exist. Yeah.
Right.
So it was a year of admin and then a year of ed. And when I interviewed, I told them, I think I'm more on the administrative route. I don't know if education's my thing, but then I always love my director at the end. I was like, okay, I love education. Like, that's my thing, actually. And she said, I knew that was your thing when you interviewed, or I wouldn't have let you in. Like, of course, like from talking to you, I could hear that you wanted to teach people and help kind of make that bridge between the viewer and the art. So anyway, it was just so funny that people see in you
like
sometimes.
They see you.
Yeah, right. So I did that for a long time, and I feel like this is such a long story, but then I worked at a museum in Kansas City. We moved back there for a little while, the Kemper Museum of Contemporary Art, in their education department. And kind of all this time I was like painting some. I painted like between working at the Smithsonian and working at the Kemper. I started painting a lot, and kind of started getting some momentum with selling and kind of getting my name out there. And then we moved back to Kansas City, and I got this job at the Kemper. And then we had our first baby. And I've learned about myself, I don't paint when I'm working. Like, if I have a job, it's just too much for me to try and do those two things. Like, I think it's too mentally draining for me to try to balance it. So I would paint every now and then, but not like, it was kind of an aside thing, not something I did consistently. And then we moved back here, and I knew we would have another kid, and I really wanted to focus on painting. So I was like, I'm not even going to look yet. Let's just like live and settle and kind of see how everything goes. And then we did have another baby, and I started painting again. So I got in kind of a great flow of painting, and then we had another baby. So I'm finding that flow again now. But
yeah, just had the third. Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Just for like the listeners out there, especially maybe someone who's just getting started. When you initially first started painting again, you mentioned like you were actually selling what you were creating. So it wasn't like you were just painting for yourself. So can you walk the listeners through like, how were you able to do that? Like, did you, go through like the museum store? Did you like do craft fairs? Like, how did you begin to like kind of put yourself out there as like an artist with work for sale?
I kept thinking about that in advance of this interview. Like, how did I start selling? I think that, some of it was just fortuitous. Like, I started painting again kind of right as Pinterest had started up. So I wanted to take it seriously. So rather than just painting, like, I knew I didn't want to paint and just have like stacks of painting in my house without any goal. Like, not necessarily that my goal is to make money still, but just to share it. So I paid someone to make a website for me, and I got business cards. Like, that was the first thing I did when I started painting again. And I think it kind of helped me mentally take it to the next level of like, this is not just a hobby. So then I started posting it on, like, every time I would have a painting, I posted it on Pinterest, and I had a blog. I mean, I wasn't great about it, but I would link to my blog and, kind of try to get things going by that. But I think Pinterest was a big vehicle for me at the beginning, because it was new and I was like fully addicted. I mean, you can see if you go to my Pinterest, I have pinned like thousands of things that I think.
I know Pinterest is an addiction for me too. Like, I tell people, I'm like, I just do it because I love it. It does bring traffic here and there to some of my websites, but it's therapy. Like, I just love pinning stuff. It's so terrible.
Nuts. I know. And I think like at the time I don't know what I was thinking. Like, there was no strategy. It was just like, let's put it out there and see what happens. And now I'm learning, like, I should be using certain keywords and things while I'm posting. But, it really just was something fun. But that helped. And then one thing I did, and it's so funny because I feel like even blogging is like fading out because of Instagram. But I reached out to Jenny Commenda, who's a really fantastic interior designer and is and was a big blogger, and gave her 2 paintings. I gave her one to keep and one to give away. And she did that. And I still get, I mean, that was probably 2012, maybe 2013. And I still get sales from people who say, oh, I first saw you when Jenny posted your work.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. Like some like blog posts, and I feel like even YouTube videos, things like that, they just tend to live on forever.
Yeah, they
and
really do.
Pinterest pins too. Like I still get traffic from pins from 4 years ago.
Yes.
You know, for different things. It's crazy.
My old pins, like when I first started, you can tell they're super old because they all have like rounded edges on my website. All had rounded edges. Now every time I see them, I'm like, can I delete you? Like but
it's bringing traffic, right?
Yeah, it's there and it's great, and yeah, people like it, I guess, still. But I feel like my photography, like so much has improved in that time, and I just wish that you knew then what you know now.
You know, but what I find interesting too is like, of course, you know, we all read like all the things that you can do on Pinterest, but it's funny. It's like when you have a love for Pinterest and you're just like naturally pinning things, I feel like it works though, right? Because even before you knew all the tips and tricks, you were getting traffic because I felt like it's like Pinterest knows like if you're a real Pinterest person, and it gives
100%. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like they knew that I lived on Pinterest. I was there all the time. Yeah.
Right.
And,
right.
Yeah. I was rewarded for that, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
It is so funny. And like I followed certain people on Pinterest that I was like, so, you know, I really admired. And now I need to go back and find like, who are these people and do they still, you know, exist on the internet? Because everything has shifted so much.
Oh, a ton over the last several years.
Yeah.
And then I love how like, I think that's a great idea, you know, giving the blogger like a painting for herself and a giveaway. Cause I feel like people who are big time bloggers, they're always looking for something, right? Yeah. Something to give their audience, something to put in their photo, something new and fresh. So if you have a product where they're like, oh my goodness, this is beautiful, then it's perfect because it works out for both parties. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that, you know, like it definitely has to be the right fit in terms of your style. But when you're starting out as an artist, it's not like you have a ton of cash to be like paying for ads on these sites. Mm-hmm. You know, like I couldn't go near paying for ads on some sites that I'd want to be featured on. But if I trade someone a painting, it's a much more affordable way to do it for me. And I think like, I mean, Jenny's house has been photographed and my work is in her house. So it's like, it is really the gift that keeps on giving. I hope for her too, but you know, definitely I still get traction out of it.
No, I think that's great. And then so as you just started to do, you know, some of these things, Pinterest here, you know, give away a painting there, then I guess did you just start to receive more traffic to your site, and then that's when your sales started to increase? Yeah,
definitely. Yes. And in some ways, I should have kind of seen it and embraced it more than I did. I mean, part of it was just that we had a baby and moved and all those things. Like now, in retrospect, I think, you know, I wish that I had kind of embraced it more, kept it going, because I feel like it would have. That I let that momentum kind of sag, and it's hard to start it again or to build it back. You know, it just takes more effort, I would say, the second time around, but it's not impossible. But yeah, it really just kind of started moving and I kind of rolled with it.
And then question for you, how did you handle shipping?
Shipping?
Because I'm like, you know, I was like looking at your pieces and I'm like, ooh, like either she sells all locally or.
I know. I actually, it's so funny. I feel like I predominantly sell online.
Okay.
And which is funny because the pieces just look so, I think, more vibrant in person than they do online. So I appreciate that people are willing to trust the internet, that they like the work. Because I'm always like, if you could see it, you would even like it more. I think. But anyway, so you'll appreciate this because you live in the DC area. I lived at like 15th and Church, kind of between DuPont and Logan Circle.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a FedEx store about 2.5 blocks from me on 14th, almost to P. And I would haul my paintings down there to pack. And then ship them that way. But it was like such a learning curve because if you have FedEx ship them, it costs more if they pack them. And if I pack them, then I had to go buy the boxes. So I kind of like every time I would tweak the process. And then I learned, unfortunately, the hard way that because I paint with metal leaf, I have to wrap the paintings in something before, like in a tissue paper or something similar, like a glassine, before putting them in the art boxes from FedEx, because it's like plastic, and it basically pulled the metal leaf off of one of my paintings. And thank God that the woman who bought it was super understanding and patient when I had her send it back and fix it. But it's, you just go through all these little things trying to be
learn
and make it work. And it's all a learning curve, or it has been. Like every time I learned something from just testing something.
No, and I feel like, because I've talked to other people before, and shipping is always just it's like so hard. Because even with shipping, do you like include it with your price, or do you tack it on?
No, I put it in only because I am the person that bails on my shopping cart every single time.
Yeah, right? That's what I was going to ask, because I feel like the smart thing to do is just like put it in there, because then if people just see the price, then they pay for it. But if some reason, if it's separate, it's like, I don't know if it's because of Amazon,
I think it is a lot, yes.
We just expect like, we have to pay for shipping? We shouldn't have to pay for shipping.
For sure. Like, I am outraged when I have to pay for shipping. I think, initially charge for shipping, and then the more I became a person who refuses to pay for shipping, like I will do anything not to pay for shipping. I was like, how can I ask people to pay for shipping if I'm not willing?
And then also I wanted to know, like, why did you choose clouds? I mean, that's what like drew me into like your whole account, and then just like wanting to have you on, because I was like, oh my God, these clouds are just like so gorgeous, and they're all different types of clouds, and So, but, why did you choose clouds? Because, of course, you could have been like, well, I'll do clouds today and doors tomorrow and, whatever else. Yeah. But your thing is clouds.
I did kind of do that. Like I painted everything. I painted brains. Like I painted all kinds of random things. But I really feel like clouds, I know it's so lame to say, but it's like I just was the thing I couldn't get out of my head. I just am so fascinated by them. And I think it was kind of like a collision of several things in art history that kind of got me thinking about or obsessing over clouds. I was studying Romanticism with like Turner, who paints these beautiful paintings that have often really kind of dreamy skies and clouds, and Bierstadt. I mean, all these romantic painters had this notion of like the sublime that kind of blew my mind, of thinking of art making you feel like you are small, like there is so much more to the world than you. Mm-hmm. That was the point of the paintings, to remind you that you are kind of insignificant, which oddly I find very comforting, that, I think we can all kind of spin out on our lives and our thoughts and feel, like things are more important than they are, or, I feel like I get anxious about whatever it is and can kind of spin down into that hole, and reminding myself, like, this is not a thing. I am just one piece of this massive puzzle is kind of comforting and beautiful to me. And I think clouds are a really wonderful way to express that through my work. But so anyway, it was that notion of sublime. And then I was studying like Buddhist art, which has really funky, cool clouds and shapes, and Baroque all at the same time. It was like it just all crashed, and this was the result, I think.
Yeah. And then it's like it just spoke to you, and you were inspired. So that became like your thing.
And
I think
years
it's beautiful.
I would wait for the clouds to like go away, or me feel like I'm not doing, like, it's every now and then I'm like, why am I still painting clouds? But I can't not. It makes for a very awkward conversation when you meet someone at a party, because I'll say, oh, I'm an artist. And then people always are like, oh, that's so cool. What do you paint? And I say clouds and skies. And I think people just don't know what to say back. Like, oh, okay. It's like, without seeing it, I think it's so odd sounding.
But, for the listeners out there, you guys have to check it out, because it is so many different variations of the sky with the clouds in there, and, with the metallic paints. I mean, it's really beautiful. So it just shows you like the skies are endless, right? Like, it changes every day, every time we look up. Like, we are part of this whole big universe. And I feel like your paintings do kind of show that. Like, we're part of this kind of miraculous universe that's constantly changing. And all the issues and problems we think we have, like, are really kind of insignificant when you think about it, you know? Like,
It's so, I mean, that really is how I feel. And I always think, like, who else is looking at this sky, and what are they going through? Like, how could I my problems are like, my baby won't stop crying, for example, that you can hear. It's like, it feels so small when I kind of take a step back, and the sky really helps me do that.
Yeah, I love it. And then I wanted to ask you too, because, before I hit record, we were talking about that you had like a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and now a 2-month-old. And, sometimes like I'll get, questions from people, and they're like, Nache, like, how do I, make time for my passions? Like, I've got 2 kids. Like, can I really do this? They're just not sure if like they can really achieve it. So how have you found balance, and how have you like made time to do what you love?
I wish I could give the correct credit to whoever told me this, or where I read it, but I always think, I think I read it, this thing that said, there's no such thing as balance, that it's just really about attending to what needs to be attended to when it needs to be attended to. So it, like, prioritizing those things in the moment that they need to be prioritized. And for me, painting is prioritizing myself, like giving myself kind of space and time. I think people are runners, or people have things that kind of allow their brain to shut down and process and be healthy. And for me, that's painting. But, for sure, I am guilty of, and I don't even feel guilty about doing it, turning on a show for my 2-year-old and being like, you sit here, mommy's going to paint. If you need something, tell me. Or I just said to my husband, I'm going to get her an easel to put in the den so that she can paint. The den is my studio, so that she can paint next to me while I'm painting. So at least there's, she's not staring at the TV. But I mean, my whole pregnancy, I had 2 shows coming, and I just cranked paintings, because I knew that once he came, I would be kind of MIA for a while. So I think I painted I told my husband, because I was like, how did I even do this? I think I painted like 30 paintings in 2 months or something.
Whoa.
Like I just cranked, and that's kind of what it is. So it's like for 2 months, I was very focused on painting. And then now for the last 2 months, I haven't picked up a paintbrush once. So I think it really is just about kind of finding the time and prioritizing what you can when you can. Because babies, obviously, and toddlers are only going to give you so much time and so much patience, and then you're theirs.
Right. They're like, okay, we will give you 2 seconds. Make them 2 seconds count.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I've thrown away a lot of paintbrushes in the last month because the amount of time that I have does not include cleaning paintbrushes.
Right. And then, you mentioned that, you've, done like some shows. How were you able to get those shows? Was it just kind of like, reaching out to galleries? Did people like find you? Just curious about how you were able to get your work out there.
So these are both through people that reached out to me, actually, which I am very appreciative of. And I think, honestly, that a lot of that has come from Instagram. Like, I hate always giving credit to social media, but it is just the way that people find you these days.
Yeah.
And I've made a really concerted effort to be posting more and kind of take it more seriously. I used to just kind of, dawdle. And I finally separated out probably a year ago my private kind of personal account from paintings, because people who want to see my paintings don't necessarily want to see my kids, and vice versa. And I always get the feeling that like my friends who are there to see my kids, I don't want to make them feel pressured to like comment or support my painting.
Right.
But no, it's not for everybody. So it's been nice to separate it out. But I think that has been a huge part of just kind of getting my work out there and showing people that I'm here and this is what I'm doing.
No, very cool. And so now, do you do this full time, or do you, have a full-time job and then do this on the side?
So, it's really, for me right now, I'm just painting and raising the kids when I can. Both. I hope well-ish when I'm not making them watch TV while I paint, and painting well when I'm not raising my kids. But yeah,
I love it.
The two kind of blending together.
And then as we wrap up here, I just had a question because I was, looking at your Instagram account, and I saw you had 2 things tagged, the Campbell Collective and the Workroom Coop. So
Co-op. Yes.
Co-op, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So those are the 2 shows that I have right now. One, the Workroom Cooperative is a co-working space in DC that also functions as a gallery. So they rotate artists through. It's a really phenomenal space, and I've kind of fallen in love with the woman who started it. She's just great and so smart. I look at these business ventures and I'm like, why did I not think to do this? It's so genius.
Right. I know. Every time I see something, I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Like why can't I be the one?
Right.
So it's great. So it's been really fun doing that. And then the Campbell Collective is, I think the future, I don't know what's true, but it seems to me that the future of art galleries is moving toward the internet. Obviously, everything is, but there are all these galleries, online galleries popping up. So it's not a physical space. It's so smart. Again, why am I not the one? They don't have overhead, but they're representing a ton of really interesting artists. And that's kind of what the Campbell Collective is. It was started by an interior designer and an artist in South Carolina, and they are representing artists. And what's really cool about them, and also just so genius, is that it's all works on paper. So I didn't even paint works on paper before. I honestly didn't even know you could paint oil on paper until they asked me if I could, and I kind of spent time figuring it out. But they only do works on paper because they want standard frameable sizes. So everything that they sell can easily be popped into like a Target frame, so that you don't have to, so often you buy a piece and then you find out that you're going to spend $600 to try and frame it.
Right.
So it takes that away from the equation.
Oh, very cool. Oh.
I know. Why didn't I think of it?
Genius. I'm just saying. So just a few wrap-up questions. The first one is, how do you stay organized? Do you have any tools, software, or techniques?
I wish I had a really good answer for that. I don't. I really don't. Forever I didn't like financially stay organized at all. I've just finally switched everything over to like separate accounts. We use this app called You Need a Budget, which I think is the funniest thing personally. And I also am using it for painting now, but it's great. I don't know if you use it, but it's like, it's addictive to see kind of where you're spending, and it really helps you figure out where you're spending, and then hopefully try to, edit it if you need to. But so that's helped me stay organized. Like initially I tried to have spreadsheets to say like, okay, I really tried to do all the math. Like I spent this many dollars on this piece, and so this was my profit. But like trying to divide up a tube of paint into however many, it's a lost cause. So I kind of have given up on some of that, and I organize as much as I can. But I use Squarespace to host my website, and they have a lot of, in terms of commerce, they have a lot of great stuff in there that kind of keeps you organized. You can mark it shipped, and you can put in the tracking info, and you can kind of pull reports. So that's been helpful, because I can only, I tell myself I'm going to be better, but I'm not.
You're like, you got to own it, and you're like, okay, what can I do to make it as simple as possible, knowing what I actually have time to do?
Yes, exactly. Like I try to prioritize painting over being on the computer, but it's so hard anyway. So that stuff really, I just like avoid at all costs, trying to really keep myself in order.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, do you have a hobby?
I think my only hobby is probably cooking. Like I can really spin out on if I find a great recipe. Like I'm hosting my in-laws for Thanksgiving, and I am obsessing over recipes and things to make, and like whether I should make a test turkey. Have you ever made a turkey before?
You do not want me cooking for you. I am not like my husband can cook, but I will burn rice.
Rice is so hard. I don't think you should judge yourself by that. I have tried to make rice like on the stove a few times, and I could not do it. And then
it's tricky.
I met my husband, and I found out his family, like every time we would eat potatoes in my house, his family ate rice, which is frequently, and they use a rice cooker, and it's like, okay, that's how you make rice. You literally just put it in, put the water in, push cook, and it turns itself off when the rice is done.
And then please just let the listeners know where they can find you. Any websites, handles, social media handles, all the things.
So my website is it's my name, Tara Andrus oh my God, I'm doing my email. This is where my mind is these days. I can't process one thought. It's just taraandrus.com. And my Instagram is Tara Andrus Art. And now I'm going to pull up my Pinterest while we're talking. I think it's Tara Andrus, but I don't even know. But you can go check out all of the odd pins that I've posted over the 15 years. I think it's just Tara Andrus.
Well, Tara, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Well, thank you so much. I really am so flattered to be doing this, and I'm so excited. I've been listening to all of your episodes, and I'm loving it. I'm officially hooked.
All right, folks. What did you guys think of that episode? Head on over to the show notes, nachesnow.com/99 or social media, and let Tara and I know what you thought about the episode. But just a few key takeaways that are super important. So when she first started her business, she said she had someone create her website and business cards. If you can afford to do that, then do that, especially if you know somebody who's really good, because the less time you have to kind of fool around with trying to create designs yourself, the better, so you can focus on the actual business. So I thought that was great. She also talked about putting every painting on Pinterest. I'm telling you guys, Pinterest is gold. Do not slip on Pinterest. I still get tons of traffic to my creative route site for people looking for my laser cut light switch plate. So I know if I decide to start that up again, it won't be any issue because I'm constantly getting people signing up to my newsletter and looking for those plates because of Pinterest. Pinterest, do not slip on Pinterest. And giving her paintings to the influencer, Jenny, and I've linked Jenny's website in the show notes, but that not so that you can send her something, but just because her blog is pretty cool. But I thought that was really smart too, because it's like now this person has her painting hanging up in their home that gets photographed often. And then she also gave Jenny a giveaway, something to give away to her people. And influencers are always looking for content. And if it's content that makes sense, that's even better. And then she talked about Instagram getting her showings, and even at Nache Snow on IG and at Creative Route on IG, there are always random people who reach out to me via DM because of the things that I post. So social media can really be a positive thing. And what's amazing is you don't even have to have like a gazillion followers in order for it to be useful. You just need your stuff to be out there, because people are always looking for content, artists, and you name it. And where do they go to find it? They go to Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook too. But I've heard a lot of good stories about Pinterest and Instagram, and I can speak to that myself. And then last but not least, I hope for you guys who have multiple kids but want to get back to their passion, that the tips that Tara provided gave you maybe some, like a strategy for thinking through like how you might fit in like the things that you want to make time for. All right, so one more episode before I take a seasonal break, but please, tune in next week. But before then, I love it if you'd support the podcast by buying some merch. So you can either go to nachesnow.com/merch, MERCH, or you could just head on over to what I'm calling my TLC shop, which is over at thelifecleanse.co, and it has like all my swag from a Studio 78 mug to Love Child of productivity and creativity t-shirt. So go check it out. Please support the podcast, and thank you already for supporting the podcast by listening. I really appreciate it. All right, you guys have a beautiful day and a beautiful week, and I will catch you guys next week for the mid-season finale. Okay, take care. Bye.